Trust the process. Pain is power. All great things take time. I am unbreakable. Unbreakable. Unbreakable.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Unbreakables Podcast, episode 11. I am your host, Jay, and this is my brother and my co-host, GiftThePoet.
Episode 11, we have a real estate expert committed to helping people thrive in their businesses, investment power, and in their mindset. He is a keynote speaker as well as a best-selling business author for his book, 100 Doors. You can find him on his Unlock Now program, which is specifically tailored to support your mindset with knowledge that gains leverage in you reaching your true potential to invest in your legacy. He has a ton of experience when it comes to flipping, selling, purchasing, and developing with over $500 million worth of real estate with his investors. But what's really special about this individual and why he's so captivating is because he's beyond the materialistic realm. When it comes to his why and his purpose, he's always been true to his family. We're very honored that he's able to touch base with us at the Unbreakable studio here in Long Beach. So without further ado, Mr. Andy Dane Carter.
Thank you for having me. Great intro. That was awesome.
He's like, I learned something about myself today.
Yeah.
No, Andy,
Thank you.
First and foremost, from the bottom of our hearts, we just want to say thank you.
Absolutely.
And for wanting to share your story on our platform and for actually even reaching out to us.
Of course.
Like, we are very, very humbled, and especially from someone from your caliber that's so openly willing to help other people.
I'm just a regular guy from Long Beach trying to help.
And we really, really appreciate that.
Of course. Thank you.
Oh, so just like any other, let's just think of it as an organic conversation. And we want to dive into your mind and into your soul and discover what led you to success. And that is through overcoming adversity, failures, and hardships. And if we can just start from your upbringing, and then we'll slowly transition into what led you here today.
Sure. You got it. I was raised in this beautiful city of Long Beach. I was raised in the quote-unquote wrong side of the tracks. If you ask certain people, I think it's the right side of the tracks. I was raised by a single mom. My parents divorced when I was 4, and we'd had peanuts. Like, she worked 3 jobs. We lived in a tiny little studio apartment, lived out of a cooler, couldn't afford a fridge. It was me and my little brother, and I was kind of in survival mode from a pretty young age. My mom loved us to death and provided everything she could. I just knew that, there was usually 2 classes, and I knew which class we were in. And from a pretty young age, I just realized that if there was something that I wanted, I was going to have to go get it.
And work hard for it.
And work extremely hard for it. And that's kind of how I was raised. I was really good at sports. I was a crazy active kid. I've got every single ADD thing you can think of. I'm severely dyslexic, so I pay attention for about 9 seconds, and then I'm off to something else. I have gear 1 and 6. I'm either kind of thinking about it or I'm all in, and I'm never looking back. So that's great if you're in business and you're an entrepreneur. It's not great when you're trying to go to school.
Of course.
I got terrible grades, D's and F's. All my teachers basically said the same thing. And he's a really bright kid. He just doesn't apply himself. I was just spaced out in class. I was drawing. I wanted to be anywhere but class. So I was told I was going to be a loser because I wasn't good in school. Well, I just was always going to show them a little different.
So wasn't it your guidance counselor that actually said that?
Yeah, she said, here's what she said. She said, it's a really good thing, Andy. You're a good-looking young man and a really good athlete.
Wow.
And I was like, all right.
That you held on to that.
Oh, I've held on to so many things. I use it as fuel. I always get goosebumps. Like, I use it as fuel. Like, you have 2 choices. You either let it bend you and break you and keep you stuck, or I'm like, fuck, watch this. And that's how I've always been. Like, anything I've ever done, especially in business, I've been grossly underqualified to achieve.
Wow.
I'm not even close to where, like, everything. I've ever done. My podcast was no different. I'd never done it. Anything. I went from passing my real estate exam to straight working with investors and developers. Everybody
Wow.
told me it's going to take me 10 years to do this. And I was like, no, I'm going to go right. And like, no one does that. I'm like, well, I don't really care.
But you felt it.
I just go because I know I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if I don't have the tools yet, I have the ability to figure it out.
And that willpower.
And that will, and that drive, which came from being young and kind of being hungry. And what really shifted my whole path is I was from Long Beach, and my mom, she didn't want me going to Wilson for whatever reason. So she wanted me to go to Los Al High School. So
Okay.
we moved over the bridge, and all my new friends all had money, and they all drive nice cars, and all live in big ass houses. And I was just like, I didn't even know houses could get this big. And they would all just get basically bought whatever they wanted.
And they had handouts, basically.
They had everything handed to them when I was the opposite. So I loved to surf, and there was this wetsuit at the surf shop, and I really wanted it, and I was 12, and we were walking by this shop. I've told the story a million times if you guys have heard my content. And my friends that had money, their parents just went to the store and bought them their wetsuit, and here little Johnny and Jeff and whoever it was, and they got their wetsuit. And I was like, I want that. So I went to all the businesses, and I found one person to give me a job after school. It was for $20 to clean these silk screens of this like shirt printing place. And I took the $20 after school every day. It was like $480 for this wetsuit. It was a ton of money. So I would just go, and I finally paid it off, and the guy handed me this wetsuit. I bawled the whole way home. I realized right then, I don't need anybody.
That you can do it on yourself.
Anything on my own.
How old were you at
12.
this time? 12 years old, and you're already found a job, and you're already hustling to get
That
what
is
you
amazing.
wanted.
And I couldn't work until I was 15 and a half, but I found a loophole because my friend's dad owned the El Pollo Loco chicken across from the high school. I started working when I was 14, and I forged my mom's name for my thing. And
Did she know that you were working at that age?
yeah, she was working. She was busy.
So she was busy.
I had my like sweet little microphone. I was working the drive-through. All my friends would come through, and they're like, "Oh, look, Andy's working." I'm like, "Just you wait."
Yeah, you had something inside already, especially when people come from poverty and they come from the other side. There's an edge that's they just hold it and they just have it, and it's really interesting.
It never goes away.
Yeah.
It's one of my greatest weapons. Like, there's people that come at me with stuff, and I'm like, "You have no idea what bear you just poked." I'll sit and wait for years, but I'll get you.
That is insane. So how did growing up with a single mother, how did that shape you?
It really made me appreciate a lot of things in life. And one, she had a hard time, and she used to date, and she'd be sad, and she'd have a boyfriend, they'd break up. So it's like I got to kind of see that side of it from a pretty young age. I grew up really fast. Like, I was around a lot of college kids because she worked at Long Beach City College. So I was kind of raised in that environment. And I just grew up real quick. So I got a lot of metal really, really quick in life. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I was 12 going on 22. But, she just gave me the perspective of, like, you can do whatever you want, but no one's going to give you an inch.
You got to work for it.
You got to go get it.
And I'm sure it helped too, considering that you knew what poverty was. You knew what growing up poor was. And you growing up without a father helped, I'm sure, mold you into the man that you are today.
Yeah, and it gave me a lot of drive when I was young because I was very angry at my dad. And I was like, how hard is it to just be there? Like, he lived in a different place, which was fine, but I just didn't like him. I just knew he wasn't a good person. Like, just knew that. But he was all about money. Money was his thing. Like, that was his god.
That's what he was chasing.
The shiny stuff. And he was the fake rich too, which was even worse. So like he was the like, man,
Rich
if
on
it was
the outside,
Instagram
yeah.
rich when he was growing up, he'd be the guy that he bought a ticket to be in front of like this car in the Lambo so he could post it, which annoyed me. But he said that he had made a certain amount of money, and like that was this big goal, and if you hit 6 figures, like you're rich. Or so I'm like, well, I'm just gonna make more than him, and that'll make me happy.
So that always drove you.
that until I was 19 and I did it. And then it lasted about 10 minutes. And I was like, I've been chasing this for years and I did it. Now what?
So let's touch base on that a little bit, because oftentimes people feel like money, for instance, they look at that and they idolize it as a god. But when you get there, you start to realize that that doesn't necessarily correlate with peace of mind. It's not synonymous. The two are very different. What did you do to realize that, you know what, I have all this money, I hit my goal, but I'm not fulfilled?
I still do it. It happens to me all the time.
Wow.
I have literally fallen in love with the journey because I know it's going to suck from point zero to whatever that goal is. It's going to be fun. It's going to be challenging. But if you don't love that part, it's going to be really hard for you. But I don't like, and it's actually at this stage of my life, it's a character defect of mine that I'm constantly working on, where I don't celebrate my wins enough. It's a problem. I'm off to the next.
I can definitely relate to you on that one.
Yeah, and it's not bad to take time to celebrate this incredible accomplishment. Like the first building I bought, I mean, I had this thing in my head, and I'm gonna go give the building a high five, and I'm gonna hug it, and I had this whole thing, and I went through hell to get this deal done. And I literally was like, well, what about the next one? What would that feel like?
So
And
you were constantly chasing and constantly raising your standards.
Yeah, because I had $400 in the bank when I started in real estate. I was off work for a year and a half, got super into yoga and health and fitness and nutrition and like crazy athlete. But then I missed the hunt and I missed that part. So I got to learn a lot about myself. I have a huge spiritual side. And I also love the business side as well. And so I had to figure out what that was. But when I first got into real estate, and I I went from zero to making $2,000 and then to 10 grand. I'm like, I just made 10 grand. That barely left my mouth. And I'm like, what would 50 feel like? And then what would 100 feel like in a month?
Wow.
And it just never stopped.
It's almost like you're jumping paradigms in a way. You're just constantly opening up your mind. You're shining more awareness on the possibilities and opportunities that there are out there.
And dude, you couldn't have said it any better, brother. Like, that's literally what I do. I go into these deep meditations and I create it. Like, I create it in my head. It's all in our head. We can literally do whatever we want.
You can have everything that you want as long as you think about it.
I created my exact scenario with my kids right now 10 years before they were born.
Wow.
And like, I had this whole thing. And I would just pour into it on these long 4-hour, 5-hour rides, 3-hour runs. I would just constantly reaffirm those things I would see. And I would just go into these deep visions and I would just create it. And then I would ask for help if I needed it.
Was that hard for you, asking for help?
In the spiritual world, no. I'm totally cool with asking for help.
Not in the spiritual world, but
like the physical world.
Physical world.
Yes. And it actually hurt me in my career, especially early on, because I'm like, I'll do it. Don't worry about it. I'll do it. And that's great, but it also doesn't mold and shape a really good leader either. And if you're not really good at delegating responsibility and then being okay with the outcome, you're never going to be able to grow. So there's very different kinds of business owners. You have like a self-employed where if you leave, the business dies.
That's very true.
Right? Or you have, someone who's more, like a capitalist or like an actual quote unquote business owner. They hire the CEO to run the stuff. They hire this person.
So they're more like behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, but their finger is on the pulse, but they're being them. And so now I do what I'm really good at. And I go out and I get the deals and the investors and I nurture those things. I still know what's going on, but I'm not there hammering the nails.
Like so hands-on, you're delegating most of the time, right?
Yes.
So Andy, can we tune in, maybe take a little step back to $400 in the bank
Sure.
and you're jumping into real estate?
Yeah. So I got into real estate for the freedom of it because I was doing tons of yoga and I was doing a lot with my body physically. I was really happy and really healthy and I didn't want to give up that lifestyle. So I passed on an incredible job opportunity because I didn't want to give that up. And I had a buddy of mine, he's like, what about real estate? He goes, you're a really smart guy. You started companies and businesses and restaurants you've owned and sold. Like, why don't you try real estate? You could probably make 6 figures working 4 days a week and you can still do all these things you like. And he's like, I know people that are knuckleheads and they're doing pretty well in real estate.
And how old were you at the time?
I was 30.
30 years old. So just to go back just a little bit, at 30 years old, you'd quit your job for, you said, about a year to focus on yourself, right? Your mental. And at that time, you were doing yoga and you were training for races, correct?
Yes. So before that, I was a wine sommelier, and I worked for a huge company and was doing very well. Suit every day, had a big expense account, was making a lot of money, but was miserable inside, broken.
Wow.
And put on like 60 plus extra pounds and was just unhappy. I was broken. And so what I wanted to do was get happy. How do I get happy? Right now, I've never been depressed a second in my life. And I found myself on my couch with like a blanket, and I'm watching TV, and there was this commercial that came on. It's like, do you know what depression looks like? And I'm like, oh fuck, that's me. And then it hit me, and I laughed and then cried a little because it was actually me.
It was true.
And I had like Sauvignon Blanc bottles on the ground everywhere, and I would just wake up and drink. I just wasn't happy.
So you felt like you were missing something, like it was an empty void.
For sure. And I couldn't fill it with any more booze or any more whatever I was trying to fill it with. It didn't work anymore. So I was left just actually depressed.
So looking back at it, what feeling would you describe it? Like you were missing something, but you then to you now, what were you missing?
Oh, I had no purpose. I lost all my purpose. I was one of the youngest wine sommeliers in the country because I loved it. I loved the grapes. I loved the terroir. I loved the food that went with it. I loved everything about it.
Very passionate about it.
Very. And then I left that to go sell boxes of it. And the
Big
companies
difference, right?
did not care about the juice inside the bottle. They cared about the numbers, the distros, your quotas. And I was really good at that because I was really good at sales and really good at running teams. So I went up the corporate ladder very quickly.
But it was all politics.
It was all, and it was just like, basically I'm bullshitting my clients and customers to have them buy more wine from me. And it was a conflict in my soul of interest. And I got into wine because I loved it, and now I'm in it for money. And I'm like, now you're just a hypocrite of yourself. So I hated the way that felt. I was making so much money, I couldn't leave. So I self-sabotaged like a normal person would. I just tried to implode the whole thing. And then they didn't fire me, and I'm like, fuck, well, now what? So I asked them for a month off. They're like, no one's ever had a month off in the history of the company. You're not getting a month off. And I'm like, all right, well, then I quit. They're like, you can have a month off. So I got so happy and so healthy in that month, like I'm never going back.
No
Everybody's
way.
like, what do you mean you're never going? I'm like, I'm never, ever going back. Here's my computer. Here's everything. I'm not going back.
So did you have a savings? Did you have anything to back you up?
A little bit. Not even close to what I needed.
Yeah.
So I started a side hustle. After the savings was gone, I was already making all this food for myself and being really healthy. And I would prep. I would literally meal prep. Like the stuff that everybody's doing today. And like, you know, you can like have it to your house. And what do we have? We have some, I'm like paleo meal thing that comes to our house every day. I was doing that for my friends that were making a lot of money. They're like, you look so great and so happy and healthy. What'd you do? I'm like, well, I cook for myself now. And for $400 a week, I can do it for you too. And I got them to pay for all my food. I would just go and shop and put it together, bought all this stuff. They would get breakfast, a snack, lunch, a snack, and dinner. And I would drop it off every 3 days at their house or your office.
Wow.
That is
and I just side hustled until I could figure it out. And I was training 6 hours a day because I was racing triathlons. So I would cook on Sunday all day, do all that, drop everything off, have everything else prepped, cook again on Wednesday. And like, that was my jam. I had tons of freedom.
Yeah, so you were really focused on your body, you were focused on your mental health. Can I ask you, were you reading any psychoanalysts or any psychologists as far as like Carl Jung or Jordan Peterson or anyone to really kind of push you through this spiritual journey?
I was going to see a shrink on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but
that was his help.
She was a spiritual psychologist. She was incredible, and she was really big into Joe Dispenza, who was nobody back then. And she did a lot of work at this place called Esalen in Big Sur, like crazy spiritual place. So I always get goosebumps even talking about that place. But like, I've always been pretty tapped into the spiritual world, but I would go very deep with her 2 days a week. We'd go on these like crazy guided meditations, and I'm doing healing from my childhood. I mean, I was deep into it. I'm a terrible reader, like my dyslexia is about as gnarly as it gets. Like if I look at a sentence, I literally start over here. Okay. So I've got terrible comprehension. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks. But in that time, I was still pretty broken. Like I couldn't even really get my head around what I was doing. I just knew I was going in the right direction because it felt good.
And you were 30.
I was 30, yeah.
So what advice would you give, let's say anyone, I don't even want to put an age limit to it, anyone from maybe 17 to 30, even 40 years old. What advice would you give someone that is working that corporate job, that is making the good money, but so unfulfilled? What advice would you give them?
It's not worth it. If you're not happy, fix it. No one's going to fix it for you. It's 100% up to you. And if you're making $100,000 a year and you hate it, try making 60 and see what that feels like. If you still hate it, you can always go back and get another $100,000 job you hate. But it's hard to blend your passion with how much money you actually want to make. Everybody says it's really easy. It's not.
Not at all.
You're like, I love this. How am I going to make $5 million doing that? You know, I just had to listen to my heart. And that was, how do I become happy, which will make me produce more income? So the happiness part will give you the space and the capacity to do so. That's why my spiritual practices are so important. Every single morning, as soon as this brain turns on, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, 10-minute meditation. It's a non-negotiable. Then I sit in gratitude for 5 minutes.
I love that.
Okay, let's talk about the gratitude because Omar Alatar does this a lot. So does Miguel Aguilar, and now Andy Dane Carter. You mentioned
Dude, I do. Gratitude. It's insane. It's you cannot be in a state of depression and anxiety when your brain has a state of gratitude. It is physically impossible. There's times when I'm like, I want to pull someone's face off. And I have to like go into gratitude of why this little lesson I'm getting is going to help me, and I'm so grateful for it. Like, it changes your everything about you.
You got to go back, right?
You have to. One, it changes all of your energy, but two, it changes your nervous system. It's like turning upside down when you're doing yoga, doing certain things. There's only certain things that can live inside your brain at a certain time. Gratitude is everything.
And it keeps you humble.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that easy. And I do these little things on my fingers. Like I'll literally go through a couple, and when I'm done, and it's usually about the same time. And I don't judge what I'm grateful for. I used to be like, you're grateful for that? Dude, don't tell anybody you're grateful for that. So now I don't have a governor on myself. I'm like, this is what I'm grateful for. It just popped in.
Just at that very moment.
At that moment. It keeps you present. The biggest reason why I do my meditations and I do my gratitude, practice. And if I miss, I do it in the car or something. But I don't miss anymore, but I used to. And then I work out and I move my body physically. And then I spend 2 hours with my kids in the morning. Like, I create that space because my day is going to come at me fucking sideways. Every day at some point, everything is on fire. So if I know that, then I have tons of space to pause. So I can go full gas until 3 o'clock and then start shutting it down. But it's so important. Without the right amount of capacity, somebody comes in here right now and you're already at 9, you're going to 12 really quick.
For sure.
You're hot, and I'm already naturally a hothead, so I kind of rest around 7 most of the time. So I have to create that for myself.
So you find the meditation and the gratitude exercises level you out, and they bring you ground pretty much.
Yeah, and they just keep me centered. Like, I go back to center. I go back to love. Like, that's what we're all really...
It's important.
You strip it all away.
It's love.
It's just love. It is the most important thing we long for. From our children, from our friends and family.
That is very, very true.
Everything. If you could give somebody $1 million or feel this infinite love for the rest of their life, you're going to take that all day.
Take the love. No,
but it's true, though, because there can be millionaires, even billionaires, that have everything, have all the materialistic things in this world, but at the end, they're still unfulfilled and they're lonely.
A lot of them, and they're just broken and miserable inside. They're like broken human beings. And they're too prideful and have too much ego to ever let anybody in.
Awesome. So can we touch base on your first deal that you've ever done in real estate? Because I know you're an investment expert. I know that you're a real estate expert, and you're the best-selling business author for 100 Doors, which is monumental.
Thank you.
But we want to know how you got there. So
Yeah.
let's deep dive into the start of your real estate career.
Sure. I was thrown to the wolves, but that was by choice. So here in like the state of California, it takes about 5 to 6 months to get licensed. So, and I had just enough to get me there, hence the $400 when I started. And so I got licensed, and I went to work for this small little investment firm. It was off of 2nd Street at the time, and they were just flipping houses, just turning and burning. Super good friends of mine from when I was a kid. And the first deal was this one I found in San Pedro. And it was a property that we ended up getting and buying, and I was able to do the acquisition, and I was able to vet the person who was still living there, because they would send me in once the property was bought to find out if it was the owner, if it was tenants or whatever. And I just went and knocked on the door. A sweet
So
old
you were the
lady.
shark.
I was the shark, but I was the nice guy to try to figure out what's going on with the property, because we'd buy most of them sight unseen. We just buy them. And I went in there as a very sweet lady, and her relatives lived next door, and we were trying to figure out a way for the family to basically keep the property. So we put a deal together, and we slowly helped them and got it done. And I realized right there, I was able to help somebody make money and feel like I was still being of service. I was just like, this might actually work for me. I really like this. And then we bought another one. It was up in Pasadena, and I was driving back and forth trying to just catch the tenant. I'd spent a ton of time in my car knocking on the door, and I'm like, hey, we just bought your property. I understand, the landlord's kind of a scumbag. They didn't pay the mortgage for 2 years, even though you were paying rent. So unfortunately, we're going to rehab this whole property and relist it and sell it. So we're going to have to help you find a new place to live.
How was that? Was that hard for you?
It was at first, but I also got really into it and really helped them. And we'd pay them. Like, we paid between $3,000 and $10,000 to go, and I would schedule everything. I would find you a place on Craigslist. We'd send our movers over with boxes. We were like the nice investors.
Yeah.
Other people would just post a thing, 60 days you're out, or the sheriffs are going to lock you out. We tried to go from a different way with that, and that worked really well for me. And I was still doing a lot of yoga, and I would just be like, hey, there's really 2 ways we can do this. There's the really hard way where I leave, and then the next time you see somebody, it's these really big, scary dudes with the police, or we can figure out a way to help you and we'll actually pay you. So it played really well for my headspace, and then I was able to learn, and then I got really good at that, and they would just send me. They're like, if Andy can't get him out, we're just going to sell him with a minute.
And I think that it's because your approach of serving, like you had mentioned that once you align service into the whole remedy, it changed the game as far as your mindset and how you feel about just your day.
That's what I do now. Like, that's why the book was wrote, because I wanted to be of service to all the single moms out there that like didn't think they had any options. And I speak at a lot of small little groups for free all over the country in like the inner city. They don't know that they have 3.5% financing, and you can buy the duplex you're living in right now, and your mortgage will be the same as your rent.
That's very wise.
They don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Like, so, and then that's my big thing is like, how can I help? How can I be of service? That's why I love doing real estate in Long Beach. There's a bunch of sharks and shysters that do real estate in the city. And I know them all. But if I can help people understand, like, you don't need to rent. Renting is a choice in 2019.
Of course.
The tools we have and the help from the government that everybody likes to bash sometimes can actually change your whole family's history. Like, if you, and like it happened to me, my mom's always rented. If you can buy, a $500,000 or $600,000 duplex, you're putting down 14 grand, 16 grand, 17 grand. And then you live in one of the units, you rent out the rest to help cover the mortgage. If you're a licensed agent,
It's really smart.
and you just have your license because you passed the test, now your commission is going to be 12 grand. So now it costs you 5 grand to buy the property of your own money. No one tells anybody any of this.
So for the novice out there, what's the first step in buying a home in the whole process of it all?
Get educated like crazy and really vet who you're getting your intel from. if it's your mom's friend who's, like Aunt Joan's been selling real estate for 20 years, she's the best, we got to go talk to her. That's fine. Go talk to Aunt Joan.
Get a second opinion.
Get a second and a third opinion on everything that's going on in your market. I know what's going on in every zip code in Long Beach. I know which ones are going up, which ones are down, which ones are getting turned over, which ones are getting gentrified, and we strategically make our decisions based on that. So I know where to help. I know where you can actually afford, and I also know in about 5 years what it's going to be worth. That to me is being of service. I don't care if it takes us 5 years to find you a deal, because I don't need the commission. Like, that's not going to pay my mortgage. I'm good. I just want to help. So that separates me from just about everybody else in Long Beach. That's why I love going on the Long Beach News and telling everybody, like, here's what you can do, because I want to help. And then if you call me and I pick up, you're like, shit, he actually answered, because I do want to help. I was at this guy's house in Wilmington. He could not believe I was at his house. He's like, I can't believe you're here.
He's like, what's the catch?
Yeah. And I'm like, no catch, man. I just want to help. He's like, I don't get it. I'm like, I know, but let's just go.
Do you think that coming from a place of hardship and seeing your mom struggle, that has a lot to do with it?
Yeah, seeing everybody struggle. Like, it all, I don't like to see the wealthy struggle or the poor struggle. Yeah. Like, they're just different struggles. Struggling is a choice. Like, you have to surrender to where you're at. Yeah. So I like to meet people where they're at, right? Like, okay, great, you make $6 million a year, but you're a fuckface. Like, let's address that. Right? Or you're an incredible human being, but you make awful financial decisions. Like, let's help you with that.
Yeah.
And I just want to help. I've been really good since I was a kid at reading people. Like, I have a humongous bullshit meter. And I'm just like, okay, I understand who you're trying to position yourself as right now, but let's just get to the truth. And then once we get to the truth, we can make some really cool moves.
But it takes being honest first, especially with themselves.
100%. That's why I have a lot of meetings, and I usually start them off with, like, we can have this thing for an hour.
Those
or like
secret meetings.
Secret meetings are the best. So that thing took off too. Like, there's people that DM me every morning, where are the secret meetings today? It's insane. But I just like to be really honest with people so they know where I'm coming from. I'm not a dick. I'm just very forward, but in a pretty kind way. And I'm just like, once you start getting really truthful with where you're at, you can make really fast decisions. But when you're full of shit and you're trying to, like,
of course,
not be, it's a tough balancing act.
Definitely. And Andy, as far as someone who doesn't know how much to pay their agent for the first time, what would you say to that person? How much should they be paying their agent to find them the right home and to be able to help them with the necessities that they need?
100%. So that's the beauty of real estate. So the seller pays all the commissions. So if you're working with a buyer's agent, you don't give them a penny.
Okay.
They get all of their money and from the seller. So if you're going to sell your property, there's going to be either between 4, 5, and 6% commission split.
Okay.
Half goes to the listing agent, half goes to the buyer's agent. So, which is good and bad. The problem with that is now the buyer's agent, they want you to buy, like, the first weekend. Hey, this house is perfect. This is perfect for you and your family.
But they're just rushing it.
They want their commission as fast as possible. I want the perfect property for you, because this is a long-term investment play. When you buy real estate really well the first time, it can literally catapult you.
We need more people like you, Andy.
We do.
I'm trying, guys.
Especially very genuine people that are willing to help and go that extra mile and not only in it for the paycheck.
You can tell right away when you are sitting down with an agent within the first week, if they, like, are pushing you to write offers and you're not in love with the property, that might not be the agent for you.
Kind of like a car salesman.
100%.
Same way.
That's why a lot of them get a bad reputation. I'm in an industry where a lot of people don't like agents or brokers for a reason. And I think what's really changed the game is when we used to have all the information, but now there's Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, like, but that's great because it empowers the market.
People are able to access.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it totally changed the game, and all the shitty agents were freaked out like, oh no, what's going to happen? What's going to happen is you can do your job now.
Did you get a lot of heat when you first started off, especially with that approach?
Very much so. I got a lot of heat from my investors. They're like, we shut your mouth about all this stuff to help people. They're going to take all the deals. I'm like, really? They're going to take all the deals?
So you're giving all the secrets away.
I don't care. I'll give them all away.
Nice.
And I always will. Every secret, the gnarliest stuff I have, I give away to everybody.
And that's interesting because I noticed that you do that, like you said, for the longevity of the person. They're going to be living in the house. That's what they want. But I noticed that it adds integrity to your character long-term wise, because you live with yourself every night and you know what you're putting out there and who you're helping. And I think that's great. I commend you on that.
Thank you. When
Absolutely.
you're a scumbag, you know you're a scumbag. Like when you're a shitty person, you go to bed, you're like, I suck. And you go to bed. You know, I'm the opposite. Like, I wake up literally replying to DMs from other countries.
I see that.
I'm just like, because I like it. It makes me feel good. Helping people will always make me feel way better than some big giant paycheck.
And you can feel the vibe right off the bat. Like the moment you approached us, I had already seen your stuff, but I told my brother about it, and I'm like, you can feel it. You can feel that genuineness and that you're really there for the people.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
everything that you do, the posts to your live videos to everything. And you don't see a lot of that today.
I know. I'm trying really hard to go as hard as I can. But there's a little part of me that's doing it very selfishly because I have 2 little kids. And I was petrified that if I got hit by a bus or my plane crashes, because they were so young when I started, they wouldn't have known who I was. They would have had some cool pictures of me and some stories from my friends and family. But now they get to hear it from me. Like they get to, like everything.
Yeah.
They get to watch it. They have almost 3 years of me going hard every single day.
I just had that conversation with her the other day.
It's so important to me. And I say it from stage constantly. I would give anything. I would write a check for $1 million right now if I could listen to a podcast from my great-grandfather with one of his 7 brothers when they got back from World War I. Anything. Or a little podcast when my grandpa and my grandma met after World War II. And she was a nurse and he was this gnarly sniper guy. Like, anything.
And I don't think a lot of people think that way now. Looking back, like now you have an imprint in the world. And now your kids are able to, you can be gone tomorrow, God forbid, but there's something
They're going to know exactly who I am, what I was passionate about, how many people I helped, my purpose. My great-great-great-great-grandkids are going to like watch this or listen to it.
And now you're building that generation wealth.
Yeah, and now they can say like, hey, I was just like him, or he's out of his mind, I'm nothing like him. But at least they have the option. You know, I would give anything just to learn more about my past. Like, how did I become me? Like, why am I like this? I have no idea.
And Andy, for everyone out there who hasn't touched base on your Unlock Now program, can you describe that a little bit as far as anyone who's interested in it, who's looking for mentorship and so on? Yeah,
so we have a lot of stuff that we have and we sell. And I did not want to do it. There was so many like fake guru shysters out there that I had to start putting out stuff because it was just terrible. So we have programs that you can find on my website. Everything is just my name, AndyDaneCarter.com. You can download all my books there, all free. YouTube channel is free. It's just my name, Andy Dane Carter. I do a lot of different styles of mentorship. We have one that's like a 30-day sprint where we go really, really deep for 30 days. I think it's like $497, $500, something like that. But that's where we really kind of get to the core of who you are, and then we can kind of go from there. It was free, but I wasn't getting the results from the free client that I wanted out of them, so I just made people pay. Now the results are incredible, and then from that program, we build you into all different levels of mentorship, and then it gets pretty expensive as it goes up. As you need more of me, then it actually goes up. But you can have it all for free. If you want to listen to all my podcasts, go watch all the YouTube videos. I'm kind of like a broken record.
And you're really hands-on with your mentors.
Very much. Like, I go deep. 100% you're going to cry. Like, I'll probably cry too. But we're going to get to where, like... The root. Like, that's where everything is. We can't grow from a bullshit root. Like, we get really clear, and then we grow. And then we put a marketing plan together around your truth. I don't care if you're selling a business or a product, or you just want to get to know yourself better, or like how just to hold this phone up to you and start doing something and not freak out. Like I really try to get to why you're doing it and why it might be important. And you're gonna suck in the beginning.
Of course.
Like you're going to be terrible when you start. And as long as that's already been established, who cares what happens? Like, just know you're going to be terrible when you start. You're going to get better, and then you're going to be awesome.
So what advice would you give that young kid or that teenager, even an adult who is seeking that mentorship and is literally at the fence? Do I invest in a mentor or should I not?
I would invest in yourself first and really start to get, some stuff and some podcasts and follow some people that you really line up with. And then if they have something, then try it out. Like, is there a free program? Is there a $500 program? Don't just listen to someone's podcast and be like, they're the best, and give them 20 grand for some program.
Right.
Because you'll get let down if they're not everything you wanted them to be. So I like to just make sure you really know what they're about and their core beliefs.
Of course.
And then you'll know.
If it's aligned.
But you have to pay. You have to get leverage on yourself. Like, the most I've got and I have a ton of mentors, and I pay a small fortune because I want the information fast. I want your 20 years of experience in a month. So how do I do that? You write a big giant check and you get the download. But if I write a big check, guess what? I'm going to do it. If I write a little check, I might do it.
It's likely, yeah.
Yeah, but if I get leverage on myself and I'm like, I just wrote a big check.
It's going to hold you accountable.
Exactly. And then they hold me accountable on top of the financial agreement. And plus, I make sacred agreements with myself and I sign them. Like, I'll make a contract for me
Wow.
and I sign it. And trust me, when you break a contract that you put together for you, it hurts way more.
Yeah, definitely. I love how you said that the advice you gave is to invest in yourself first before seeking a mentor. And I think that's brilliant because your program itself is tapped into reaching someone's true potential. And when you're tapped into that, man, you can do so much with the self. It's amazing.
You do anything.
Yeah.
Like, that's the part. Like, if I can just get you to that place of when you were that child, like mind, that thought you could be an astronaut, that thought you could be a pro, whatever. That's still in me. But we forget, as we get older, we keep dropping these veils and these blinds of bullshit beliefs that aren't ours and fears.
Especially what society wants from you or expects.
And it's 1,000 times worse because everything is magnified now digitally. So we used to have 700 brands would hit us a day as we're driving on billboards. Now it's 17,000. So we're constantly getting bombarded with stuff. So if you can't stay centered, it's a big problem. But if I can kind of peel back some of mom and dad's and grandma and grandpa's fears they hucked at you and you held on to, then we find out kind of where you're at. But there's plenty of people I'm like, you should never sell real estate ever again.
But you're very honest about it.
Yeah. And then why? You don't have to believe me. I'm just a dude, but I'm like, this is kind of what I see, and I think you might be happier maybe doing this. Like, just give it a shot.
Yeah, and for everyone out there, if you're seeking a mentor, but capital is the issue, you don't have the funds to get it done, or you don't know how to take immediate action, I want you guys to look on Instagram right now and follow Think Big, Work Small. He's on YouTube, he's on LinkedIn and Facebook. His new YouTube channel is very successful. He has a mastermind, and he's going to invest in your dream. So if capital is an issue, it's no longer an excuse.
I love it.
He's going to also teach you how to take immediate action, and that is Think Big, Work Small. Again,
It'll be in the link below.
Yeah, Think Big, Work Small with David Albanese. Andy, here on the Unbreakables, we play this game. It's a magic deck, and what we're going to do is we're going to ask you some deep questions.
Sweet.
Actually, we are not asking you. The deck is
Perfect.
asking you.
The deck has the power.
Deck has the power.
I love it.
Let me just shuffle just a little bit.
Oh, yeah, and podcasts are free, so if you don't have any capital,
Yes.
find podcasts that, I learned so much about real estate investing from books and audiobooks before I ever got my license. I knew more than most people because it was almost free. I would just listen to them on long bike rides.
It's powerful. Okay, so you get to select 2 cards.
Sweet. I will take that one and this one. Do I give them to you?
Yeah. No, you can read them one by one and then answer the question.
What do you love about yourself? That's so interesting. I love that I love to give, and I give very, very openly.
It's a gift.
It's a gift, and out of all the stuff I've done, I really love the fact I'm a good dad. Like, I think I'm the best dad, and I love my children, and like they have a very different experience than I had, but like that's my favorite. Like, I'm really, really good at that.
Do you think that kept you grounded?
For sure.
Like you
I
knew
have
the
no
opposite.
idea where I would be if I didn't have children.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I would be here or if I would be a trillionaire. I have no idea.
And it's interesting because earlier you mentioned they kind of brought out the mortality in you. You kind of realize, you know what? I'm not going to be here forever, so I'm going to leave them with a legacy. And I think that's
And
beautiful.
I had everything but that. I was making truckloads of money, could do whatever I wanted, and I was just empty. I'm like, what am I doing? What is all this for? And then it started to come together. And then when my son was born, Jackson, like I became a different person that night. It's the most bizarre thing. And I can only explain to people that have had kids because I could have never imagined that was going to happen. And it's one of those things where I just shifted forever, and I'm so grateful. Okay. What do you need to unlearn? Fuck. Man, we need another podcast for this.
Episode 12 on that?
Yeah, episode 12 on the what do I need to unlearn? I could probably unlearn being as patiently revengeful as I am. Like, I'm a very spiritual person, and I let stuff go. When somebody like really wrongs me, or a friend or family, I'm a very big protector. It's like big. It's really kind of who I am.
Your guard goes up.
It goes up, and I'm like, I'm gonna get you. Like, not physically where I'm gonna break your arm, but like, I'm gonna figure out a way to make you feel some of what you made them feel. That's probably not the best quality. I could probably unlearn that, but I don't want to.
But at least you're honest about it.
Yeah, no, and it's a place of protection.
Yeah, and it takes a lot, especially to own it. So,
and I think that's in regards to being a father as well. You just want justice. That's what it is.
I kind
seems
of
like.
do, and I always have. And I think that kind of comes from when I was raised, poor, and people would try to punk me because I was, the poor kid, and I'm just like, all right, well, we'll wait.
We'll see.
We'll just go ahead and wait. And I also started fighting very young because of stuff like that too. But yeah, that would be one thing I could probably unlearn, is being a little revengeful.
So what advice would you give those young entrepreneurs out there that are making a shitload of money, spending it on God knows what, to invest on, of course, self-education, but some struggle with investing on a home and or a business or both? What advice would you give them?
I talk to a lot of them, and they have the Lamborghinis, and they have their drop shipping e-commerce, and they just think this market's going to be awesome forever. And it is not. Like, we're literally feeling all the signs of the turn, and you're either prepared for it and you're going to be fine, or you're not and you're going to get smoked. So I like appreciating assets. An appreciating asset would be a duplex, triplex, fourplex, where your tenants are covering a big part of the mortgage, and you might lose a little bit on paper, but you're not going to lose the whole thing. That's an appreciating asset. A Lamborghini is a depreciating asset. Some watches are appreciating, but not necessary. So for me, there's ways to position yourself. If you're making cash and you're not building new streams of income that are based on true market data, it's just a bad idea. Like, at the same time, you're gonna do it anyways. Like, I pissed away tons of money in my 20s because I wanted to be flashy and like pick up on girls.
How did you bounce back from that?
I got smarter. Just started making better decisions. And then I'm like, they don't care that I bought the bottle. They care that I'm funny. Funny's free.
Yeah.
So like that, like so many people that are young that have money are trying to protect an ego that's trying to protect them. And it is a vicious cycle. Yeah. But as you get older, you really stop caring.
Go from it.
I literally don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
I don't care if as soon as I leave, you guys all make fun of me and post it. Like, I don't care. Nothing, it doesn't bug me anymore. So that, I think, just comes with time. But the faster you can get that, I think the happier you're going to be.
That's very powerful. And what is your take on formal education versus self-education?
It's I've got some quotes that I use all the time. I think it's
Jim Rohn.
I probably, yeah. It's the a formal education will make you rich and a self-education will make you wealthy, something like that. It's 100% true. I punted schools for like so long ago. I have a degree in fire science because I was going to be a fireman.
Read about that.
It's a certificated degree from Long Beach City College. And then I was in school at UC Davis for viticulture and enology. Didn't finish. Wow. So for me, self-education is the most important. I believe that the college system is broken. It's been broken.
Absolutely.
It's a business. Like, it's a massive business.
Numbers,
That's
all that,
all
right?
they care about. You have professors that are teaching you about stuff that is irrelevant.
And they have no experience in it, I'm sure.
Zero. That's a big thing with mentorship. Like, if you find the mentor and vet them, make sure they're not some person that went to a couple seminars and called themselves a real estate expert or a flipper because they went to a flipper course.
Or an entrepreneur.
Or an entrepreneur. Like, I don't care if you've built a business. Have you built a successful business?
There's a difference.
Big difference. There's hobby businesses all over the place. Have you built a successful business? And can you speak to all the pain points? I could literally sit here for a week and tell you of all my failures. All the companies I invested in that went sideways. Like, you're going to have to get really good at losing.
Yeah, it almost creates like shadow work in a way. It shows you all the negative aspects of yourself that you don't really like, but in the business side as well. So
as you grow as a person and as a manager, and now you learn to fire people faster.
It's all a learning experience.
It is. Like, I love all my L's. They suck, but like, I would not change any of them. Every time I lose, I learn so much. I talked about this morning. I don't learn anything from my wins. They feel great.
All your failures.
That's it. I learned so much. Even the little failures, I'm like, fuck, they got that by me. Shit. New part of the contract. Like, that is where you get stuff done.
When you build that momentum.
Exactly.
Do you have any regrets?
Yeah, I got one pretty big one. When I was 26, I didn't buy a $260,000. No, I was thinking I was 23. Fuck. And I was working at Tsunamis in Sunset Beach, and I was one of the owners and partners. And I was living in Seal Beach, and there was a duplex in Sunset Beach for $260,000. And I was paying $1,700 a month rent to live on Ocean in Seal Beach. Wow. And I didn't want to pay
couple hundred more, right?
$2,700, which is like $1,000 more. I was making like $80,000. It would have been nothing. That same duplex sold for like 1.2. Oh man. 1.3.
No way.
That's crazy.
It'd have been fully paid off.
That's crazy.
So you felt it.
And I'd have had $1 million piggy bank. Yeah.
So I must ask you.
That's why. Buy a duplex. Buy a duplex.
Buy a duplex. Lesson today, guys. Buy a duplex.
Or triplex or fourplex. It's the same financing as a condo.
Andy said it first.
Yeah. I'm telling
Appreciating asset.
Yes. So who are your top 3 influencers in this world?
My first mentor is this guy named Walt Babcock. He owned Walt's Wharf in Seal Beach. Just an incredible man, like extremely wealthy. He drove a Suburban. Like, he wore a flannel and jeans. Loved wine. He had a winery. You would never know.
Adam Sandler, right?
Totally. Just a great dude.
Very humble.
Very, very humble. And he told me, he's like, always buy the dirt. He goes, if you're going to have a business, make sure you own the land that the business is on. Wow. And he said, always buy the dirt. It stuck in my little head when I was 19.
Always buy the dirt.
Always buy the dirt. And I give him as many props as I can because he's a local guy. I live a block from where he lived. When I first saw his house, and I was like, how can I ever live in this neighborhood? This is insane. And I used to see him walking before he passed away, and I was just like, he's such a good guy. Very, very powerful guy in my life. And then, like, another one that's a pretty close second was the GM of the same restaurant, this guy named John Ryan. He taught me a lot about business and how to manage people. And that stuff just stuck with me for a long time. And then I have a laundry list of, like, mentors that you guys would all know that are my friends.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I blend all of them together because I lean on them all. Like, I have questions for them, and they call, and I call them. They call me. But those 2 when I was young were really important to me.
Helped mold you.
Yeah, for sure. And they kept me humble. When I messed up, they let me know. But I was hungry to learn. And I wanted to learn it all.
Amazing. So, Andy, what's next for you? I mean, you've done so much already, but what do you have next?
I'm pouring a lot of energy into Long Beach right now. Like I'm building out this team to do exactly what I was talking about with you guys. Like I want to have a team of 20 or 30 incredible agents that are trained by me on how to do things the right way and really change the way that people buy and sell real estate in Long Beach, because it doesn't have to be this horrific experience. It's one of the most stressful things you go through in life, and it just doesn't need to be. With the right education and the right person like fighting these wars for you, it's really important. Like, do you want somebody who's just going to wear a name tag and put a sign in your front yard or show you some properties, or do you want a savage?
Ooh,
and I think
there's a difference.
Big difference. Like I literally fight for my clients like it's my property for my family. So I think there just needs to be more of that.
Of course.
And I want to do more business in Long Beach. I own businesses in Long Beach. I live in Long Beach. My kids go to school in Long Beach. I'm third generation Long Beach. I travel all over the country, and I'm like, why don't I spend more time in Long Beach? This city's rad. And I'm doing more of that, and I'm really going to go hard at the city because I just want to help more people. And if I can help small business owners figure out ways to buy real estate to help support their small business in hard times, then I'm going to really
That's
be able to
amazing.
make an impact. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, before we end things, I need to ask you,
Sure.
how was it meeting Gary Vee, and what was your strategy on that?
Yeah, so I had a great strategy on that. So it's so funny how I met him too. He launched a program called the 4Ds. I'm not sure if you
Yes,
guys know
I
about
have.
that. I did the first one.
No way.
So
That's awesome.
the first time he said anything about it was an Ask Gary Vee show with Tony Robbins, and he said something about
I saw
it.
that one.
So I was in my car listening to it, and I pulled over and I started emailing him from my phone, just over and over again. When you do this, I'm in. When you do this, when I'm in, 10 grand, I'll send it right now. I'll send it right now. And then I was following his whole team. And
D-Rock.
yeah, D-Rock. D-Rock's my homie. And Tyler sent me an email saying that they're going to do this beta program, and they kind of looked me up. I had a very small following at the time,
How small, if you don't mind me asking?
like 2,000, 3,000 followers, pretty small. And I'm like, look, I'm all in. Here's what I do, and I really need this, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I want to be on this thing. So they said, cool. Then Tyler and Andy, his like two assistants, called me. We did like a brief little interview, and they're like, yeah, cool, you're perfect, you're in. And I was like, where do I send the money? So I wired the 10 grand and
Wow.
booked a flight, had my video guy with me, and I got him to come, and we spent 3 days in New York, and I got Gary a signed helmet from like the actual team that went to the Super Bowl in the
That is amazing.
the 60s. And I'm like, I'm going to make the biggest impact when I
Impression.
get there, and I'm going to make friends with every single person in that office.
And I heard you bought everybody a gift, correct?
I did. I got them all these really cool crystals that I felt lined up with their personalities, and I wrote little notes and put them in these little boxes, and they were delivered to their desks, and each one
Wow.
had my business card in it.
Wow.
And then I got their emails, and I emailed them all directly. I stay in
It
contact
was very personal.
with all of them, yeah. Because
A
my
smart strategy, guys.
you guys are the
You hear that?
top marketing minds in the world. You guys can be my friends. And then I became really good buddies with the CMO. His name is Jeff Nicholson, and he was one of the most impressive people I've ever been around. Just a brilliant person. And he was one of the first people I had on my podcast.
Wow.
So now we stay very close, and I get millions of dollars worth of intel from them because I sent some really cool stones and crystals and was just a good dude. And now I stay very close to that whole company.
That is awesome.
And then I got to spend a lot of time with Gary, and he basically told me to my face, like, you got a great message and a great story. Just put your head down and give it away for free for the next 2 to 4 years.
And I'm sure that fueled you even more.
Yeah, and then it was a weird situation. There was this one video of the beta group for the 4Ds, and it was a video, and you never saw the guy's face, but he was talking directly to this guy. And this guy was selling these courses, and Gary went really deep, and he's like, you're full of shit. And I watched it like 100 times because I was like, fuck, that's so powerful. I want to be in that office. And then it's a huge boardroom. And I'm sitting there talking to Gary, and I'm telling him that story. He goes, do you know he was sitting in your seat? And I go,
No
get the
way.
fuck out of here. And he's like, yeah. And I started to cry. I got so emotional. I was like, this is all working. This is actually, like, this is working. And it solidified all the visualization that you can do. It's real. Like, you create it, and then you just pull it forward.
And watch it come to life.
That's it.
So what advice would you give somebody who is trying to, whether it's start their own business and or just network or reach out, being in your position, what advice would you give that person? Because I know there are a lot of people, especially on social media, that are very timid and that don't really want to reach out because maybe they feel they don't have that following, or maybe they feel they're not as established or the next person. What advice would you give them?
You don't need to be established. Be social on social media, folks.
Yeah.
Be social. That's the thing. I built my entire podcast off my Instagram DM.
Wow.
Hey, would love to have you on my show. Here's some stuff about me. Who's your handler?
You just took action.
That's it.
That was
like,
it.
Imperfect
I
action.
did what I was told. I listened to Gary. Like, the dude's pretty smart. Most people don't follow his blueprint. And that's why he gives everything away for free. He's like, no one's going to do it.
Document versus create, right?
That's it. Like, you just reach out, be social. Do you know how easy it is to be timid and an introvert on your phone, in your bed, under the blankets, and reach out to whoever you want in the world?
Very easy.
Instead of going to a networking event with 1,000 people, and you're like,
That's actually very true.
my name's Andy and I stutter. Like, I'd rather be on my phone. There's
So many ways, loopholes.
There are these kids that send me DMs that have like 7 listeners of their podcast, and they're doing it from their parents' kitchen in Istanbul. And they'll reach out at the right time, and I'll be on my DM, and they'll come in and be like, oh, who's this kid? And I'll say yes, and it changes their whole world.
Wow.
Like, you don't know. You never know. And now they're hitting me up for advice on how to buy. This one kid, he's 16. He's asking me about how to invest in real estate in the U.S.
That's 16 years old. That is insane.
That is
So and I'm like,
amazing.
and he can barely eat. I'm like, and you have a problem going to class? Like, get out of here. So, like, I just put it all into perspective. Like, if you don't ask is the biggest part of business.
I think that's the hardest part,
is.
especially to so many out there, is
Sales-
asking for help.
Sales is the oxygen, and marketing and branding is the blood. You have to have both. If you're afraid of the ask, like, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and that's why you really have to get to know yourself, because when you truly understand who you are, you stop the questioning and the clarity becomes very clear. And I love that you said that earlier, is that before you even get a mentor, get to know yourself, so then you could take action. Something as simple as a DM can change your whole life.
You don't know what you want yet.
You don't.
I just knew where I wanted to go, and I was just like, well, I need to be over there. So how do I get over there?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, but I had to know why I wanted to get over there. I was really happy and really healthy being, broke, but really physically strong. But I also found out really quickly what my 3 pillars were. Like, that's a tripod. If you kick one leg over, it falls. Like, we all have our tripod. And during all my pain and self-discovery, I got to find out what my 3 strong legs are. If I'm doing too much business, everything else suffers. My health suffers, my relationships suffer. If I'm too much in my spiritual self and I'm crystals and mudras and oils, like, my business suffers. So I have to, and balance is a myth. You're never going to achieve it.
So how do you do it?
I don't. I do me as well as I can, and it's me versus me every day.
So how do you make everybody happy?
I don't. And I barely make myself happy sometimes. But you know what I do? I course correct and I keep going. I don't stop. Course correction has changed my life. People stop, and that's where you get screwed. I just go like this. It's a very
Maneuver.
ugly chart.
Pivot.
Yeah, there's no straight line. Get out of here with the straight lines. It's going to be hard. And I pivot. I got hurt. I spent 90 days training for this tournament. Everything was perfect. Diet perfect. I cut weight perfect. Mental perfect. The whole thing perfect. Beating him perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, but you can always find the meaning in that struggle, and something's being done. That's what's happening. And honestly, the chemistry here is amazing, Andy. We'd love to get you for another round sometime. We're just honored that you were able to touch base with us here in the Long Beach studio. You're doing amazing things in Long Beach. Make sure you guys follow Andy Dane Carter. Again, that's Andy Dane Carter. Follow us at the Unbreakables Podcast on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook at JMergs and GiftThePoet at the Unbreakables. Follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube at the Unbreakables Podcast. And comment below what you want us to ask our guests for episode 12.
Yes.
We're going to be on Instagram story with you guys. We're going to do direct DMs with you guys. So hit us up. And thank you again for tuning in, guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank
you,
you for having
Andy,
me.
so much. We really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Unbreakable.